Ministers in the UK are pledging to commit almost £600 million to the rail network in the north of England. Much of the £589 million will be used to electrify the trans-Pennine main line between Manchester and Leeds. The number of tracks will be doubled from 2 to 4 on the busiest sections, allowing faster trains to overtake. And looking to the future, a new acceleration council is being set up to speed up investment in transport. In December, more improvements will be unveiled when a report is published, which it's thought will include plans for more trains, tracks, freight and all-electric services between Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, York and Newcastle. Well, here's what people at Manchester Piccadilly Station had to say about the announcement.
I mean, we've probably heard it before hundreds of times, to be honest. But I guess we'll see.
It's hard to believe it'll happen, absolutely. Well, it's been promised before, hasn't it? We've had terrible trains up here for such a long time. It's hard to see when that'll happen, and even if it is promised, when that's going to actually materialise into anything.
Trust is gone.
Yeah, totally.
It would be nice to have not the south-north divide that we've had previously. So
you're optimistic there might be some change?
Well, you know, the sort of COVID has shaken things up, so you never know.
And joining me now is Gareth Dennis, a railway engineer and lecturer at the University of Birmingham Centre for Railway Research and Education. Thank you very much for joining us today. I spoke to someone from the Northern Powerhouse Partnership earlier who said, well, yes, there have been lots of false dawns when it comes to improving transport links in the north of England. Do you think this is different?
Well, I have to say, unfortunately, I share the scepticism of the people you just interviewed across Manchester in the north earlier there. Is that these are sort of rehashed promises. It's the same stuff that's been said previously. This is sort of, relatively speaking, quite a small amount of money. Electrification across the north, between, in fact, Liverpool right the way across towards Hull even, was promised, the best part of a decade ago, and it still hasn't happened. But on the other hand, mixed feelings. It's good that this is starting to progress. It's good that there's some more powers being devolved to transport for the north. But this is really a drop in the ocean in terms of the required investment we need to make. We've talked about that north-south divide. Really, it's the fact that within the M25, you turn up at a station and you don't have to worry about when a train arrives because there'll be one within a few minutes. Outside of the M25 is a totally different story. Yes, in the north, but also in the southwest, in the Midlands, particularly the East Midlands, there's a lot of money needs to be spent, and that is a quantum leap required, not this kind of a small amount of money.
I had a message from one of our viewers earlier, Sue Robertson, who said, will you please explain that Manchester is not really the north? She says, we live in the north of England and it takes 3 hours to drive south to Manchester. No travel investment here. That's according to Sue Robertson. But, I guess you get her point. Do you think that all of the north of England is going to be served by this as opposed to some focus around metro centres?
Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, even it's not even all the metro centres, the large cities that have an equal share of the pie. You look to Middlesbrough and Teesside; they rarely get the rail investment required compared to Manchester, Birmingham, and London. But actually, it's these rural places, some of the smaller areas that perhaps rural, but kind of on the map look quite close to cities. So some of the areas in South Yorkshire, for example, that have incredibly poor rail services that make catching the train kind of almost a futile experience compared to, and that means that the choice is that you drive, which is, given that we're in the midst of a climate crisis, 88% of transport in the country is by road, so that's HGVs, cars, vans. In order to reduce our carbon footprint, we need to be moving people onto trains. That's stuff as well as people, and to do that, we need more services. And to get more services, you need electrification, you need more steel, you need tracks to put those trains on, you need the trains themselves, we need major investment. And the reality is that 600 million over 5 years is pennies when we really need to be looking at multiple billions of pounds a year of additional investment.
You began the interview, Gareth, by saying that you were pretty sceptical, but let's try and suspend that just for a moment, that doubt, and talk about delivery. Imagine this is being delivered. How do you see that working? Because as I discussed with our earlier guest, we've got already the Northern Powerhouse Partnership, we've got Transport for the North, and now we've got this. I've got the list in front of me so I don't get confused with all these organisations, a Northern Transport Acceleration Council. Is it too many cooks, as I put to our earlier guest?
I think there's certainly a risk that there are too many cooks. It's important that there's always a balance between getting the work done and so having streamlined delivery, but also having a democratic input into what people want out of the railways. And that's kind of why you end up with these various organisations. But we need to avoid talking shops. And there's a risk that some of these, Northern Powerhouse Partnership, there's a risk that that becomes a talking shop that doesn't get involved with delivery, doesn't get on with the delivery, and actually slows things down. This government has a habit of playing the North against itself, playing Manchester against Leeds, as you've heard with discussion about dropping parts of High Speed 2. We need to push through that. Transport for the North should aim to sort of unify all these various voices and press ahead with delivery. The most important thing is that the North develops a plan and pushes ahead with delivering it. And
what about affordability, Gareth? Because, the cost of getting on a bus and using other forms of public transport is actually, well, it's a lot less expensive in London compared to other parts, isn't it?
Yeah, the only way, the way that fares, certainly for rail work, is that you have fares are managed by demand. So as you have more trains, fares can come down. If you've got trains that are absolutely packed, you can basically charge what you like. So the only way that we can reduce fares is actually by increasing capacity on our system. And so in the longer term, you've got High Speed 2, you've got Northern Powerhouse Rail, or the kind of the fast connection across the Pennines as well. But in the shorter term, this upgrade, trans-Pennine upgrade, electrification allows you to run more trains because the trains sort of fit more closely together on the tracks. And so ultimately, if you want to manage fares, reduce fares even, you need more capacity in the system.
OK, Gareth Dennis, lecturer at the University of Birmingham Centre for Railway Research and Education. Thank you very much.